Thank you. I would like to call to order the special meeting of the Norwalk Common Council on April 20th, 2023 at 7 p.m. It is now 7:04 p.m. Please rise and join me in pledging allegiance to our nation's flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Mr. Burnett,
Present.
Mr. Camacho,
Present.
Mr. Goldstein,
Here.
Ms. Najolski Eichner,
Present.
Ms. Smith. Here. Ms. Ayers,
Present.
Mr. Uvelman,
Present.
Ms. Revoluz. Ms. Young, here. Mr. Kites. Ms. McMurr. Present. Ms. Alterman. Mr. Meek. Mr. Livingston,
Here.
Ms. Shanahan,
Here.
Ms. Revoluz, Mr. Kites, Ms. Alterman, Mr. Meek. We have 11. We have a quorum.
11 present, we have a quorum. First item on the agenda is public participation. Do we have anybody wishing to address the council? And Mr. Manzi, do we have anybody that is online that wishes to address the council?
You don't have anyone, no, they don't have any attendance stuff.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is for the council president, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mayor. The item 4A1, I'd like to move this item to go into executive session, and the item reads as follows. Authorization to settle claim as to the following defendants in the matter of City of Norwalk and City of Norwalk Redevelopment Agency, ILSR Owners, LLC, Etel docket number X08-FST-CV-18-603-8249-S, which is currently pending in the Stamford Norwalk Judicial District at Stamford. A, Wall Street Opportunity Fund, LLC. B, Comey Ventures, LLC. And C, Jason Milligan.
And Mr. Burnett has moved the item to go into executive session. All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. We will now go into executive session.
Are we staying here? Or are we good?
Okay, good evening again. It is now 9 p.m. We are out of executive session. During executive session, no votes, no motions were made, no votes were taken. Mr. Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make the following motion. Authorization to settle claim as to the following defendants in the matter of the City of Norwalk and the City of Norwalk Redevelopment Agency, ILSR Owners, LLC, Etel docket number X08-FST-CV-18-603-8249-X, which is currently pending in the Stamford Norwalk Judicial District at Stamford. A, Wall Street Opportunity Fund, LLC. B, Comey Ventures, LLC. And C, Jason Milligan.
Okay, the motion has been made. It's discussion.
At this time, Mr. Mayor and Council, I will ask our corporate counsel to share the terms, basically the essence of the settlement.
Council President, I'll try to briefly summarize the settlement agreement. If the settlement agreement is approved this evening, we will have copies available to the public, and we'll also provide copies to the press afterwards so that everybody has an opportunity to read the full settlement agreement as well as the attached exhibits to the agreement. But just to summarize the main terms. First of all, the plaintiffs, in this case, the city and the redevelopment agency, will receive $1,350,000 in cash proceeds. To date, the plaintiffs have received a total of $325,000 from other defendants. The public parties previously received $200,000 from CC Rivington and $125,000 from Richard Olson and the POCO defendants. The plaintiffs will receive an additional $1,025,000 from the Milligan defendants, which includes a contribution on behalf of the Milligan parties from Chubb Insurance Company. Second notable term in the settlement agreement is that the Milligan parties agree to provide 88 public park spaces in perpetuity on the subject property, consistent with commercially reasonable terms. And there is a detailed easement agreement that is attached to the settlement agreement that will be recorded on the land records and that will run with the land, which provides for the specific terms associated with the public parties' rights to the subject 88 public parking spaces. Notably, these 88 public parking spaces have a value totaling $1,936,000 based on the value set forth in the underlying land disposition agreement, as well as the liquidated damages clause that's set forth in the easement agreement. The easement agreement specifically provides that if the Milligan parties cease to provide the public parking spaces, which they have the right to do voluntarily, then the Milligan parties have agreed to pay a liquidated damages fee per public parking space in the amount of $22,000 per space. And that amount, that liquidated damages amount will increase by 2% each year. So in year one, the cost per parking space is $22,000. If it was, for example, 5 years later, it would be $22,000 plus 10%. The 88 public parking spaces will be secured again by a parking facility easement and restrictive covenant agreement that will be recorded on the Norwalk land records and that will run with the land in perpetuity. The Milligan parties have agreed to additional terms concerning the public parking spaces, including that they cannot charge more for those public parking spaces than the parking authority, than the Norwalk Parking Authority charges elsewhere in the city. Lastly, in any enforcement action or any other legal action resulting from any potential violation of the stipulation, including the easement agreement, the plaintiffs and the Milligan parties have agreed that an injunctive order enforcing the term or provision violated may enter against either party without an evidentiary hearing, as any such violation would cause irreparable harm to the public for which there is no adequate remedy at law. So we feel that the terms set forth within the settlement agreement, most importantly in the easement agreement that will be recorded on the land records, provides appropriate protections for the subject public parking spaces. Do you have any further questions?
Further questions or comments? Mr. Livingston.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Capola, for the summary. I feel like I've been living with these matters for all my time in the council, although it's only been 5 years. This has been going on. It could have gone on another 5 years. We all know that. But despite the time that the city has spent on this and the money we've spent, I think the city did the right thing. I think the city enforced the terms of the LDA. It took a long time, but at the end of the day, we recovered the 88 public spaces the city was entitled to under the LDA. fact, we're probably getting it, we will get it sooner than otherwise would have been the case had the development proceeded to phase 2. We also are receiving more than the legal fees expended in this lawsuit, but it's not just a matter of the legal fees. I mean, it's a matter of principle here, and I think the city was, as I said before, was right to stand up and to enforce its rights and to make it known that the city will enforce its rights under agreements. And I do commend Mr. Capola, his able assistants, Brian Candela and Darren Callahan and others for all their hard work on this. I know it was not easy, having sat in a number of the mediation sessions. I know it was a very arduous process, and I do commend you for this and thank you for all your hard work. And I do recommend it. Real. Thank you.
Smith?
Yeah, I concur with Mr. Livingston. There's no need for me to repeat everything he said, but I do agree. I would also like to take a moment to thank Attorney Capola for your perseverance. You really stuck with it. You pushed us all along, and we went along with you, and we have a positive outcome for the city. So I want to thank you for that, Mr. Candela, and also Attorney Callahan. I would also like to thank council leadership, Mr. Burnett, and particularly Mr. Livingston, because you have been at this for so long and you have been really very involved and your voice has been really important throughout. So I really want to thank you for that, and Mr. Mayor as well. I think that finally we can really see the kind of development and redevelopment that we have always longed for on Wall Street. And I would also like to thank Mr. Milligan for his cooperation in this agreement.
Mr. Hooverman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, everybody's said a lot of the same things that I'm going to say, but I do have to say to the Corporation Council, to Mario Capola, Brian Candela, Darren Callahan, and everyone else that worked on this, huzzah. Thank you for the work that you put into this and the time and effort that you put in, and you've hung in there. I know at times this was not one of the more favorable things to work on for the city, but I appreciate the work that you've done. And to my colleague, Mr. Livingston, the work that you've put in over the years on this and your commitment to staying with it as well, I think is commendable. Council President Burnett, also the work that you've done coming on as president in this term and continuing to move this forward, Mr. Mayor, as well. I think this is a positive. Those 88 spaces are needed down there. I think that it's important for the area that this is now come to a resolution and that we continue the forward motion in the Wall Street area that we have put forward over the last couple of years, the work that TMP is doing with renovating and design work for the sidewalks, the changes in the Wall Street area. This is going to help add to that momentum that we need in that area. And I'm glad that it has come to this tonight, and I'm going to be very happy to vote yes. So thank you.
Mr. Goldstein.
I also want to make it very clear that not only the incredible work that our legal team and Tom Livingston and all of us have done, but also to say that agreements matter. When they are agreed, they will be enforced. And I also think that there has been, and I think there are council members on here who have been on this body for far longer than I have who could speak to this, that there has been this sort of pall of purgatory over the development of Wall Street due to pending litigation. And the fact that the parties were able to, both the plaintiffs in the city as well as the defendants and Mr. Milligan, were able to come to a resolution that was agreed upon and not decided at a trial, is, I think, good that the parties were able to come to an agreement. There was a resolution. It may not be one that every single person is happy with. However, that's the nature of settlement. So I will be a strong vote in favor of the agreement as set forth.
Further comments or discussion? I'm sorry. Oh, Mr. Burnett. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would first like to echo all of the comments that have been made in terms of the total team that has been involved in this litigation for close to 5 years. But I especially want to thank the residents, the citizens of Norwalk, for being patient with us and allowing us to work through this very complicated and difficult situation and bring it to closure at this point. So want to thank you for, it's been frustrating. We've heard our residents loud and clear. What are we going to do about this situation? When is it going to come to an end? So this is a great moment that we can say we have come to a settlement agreement and now we can move forward. And we welcome your input on what will happen in that area as we move forward. So as Council Member David Hooverman made a statement, he used the word momentum. And that's what we're looking to re-engage in the Wall Street area, build momentum and move forward for the future. So thank everyone again for their diligence and hard work and commitment. And now we can move forward.
Ms. Ayers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, echoing the sentiments of those who spoke before me, but I also like to take a moment to acknowledge those businesses and those residents who directly reached out to myself as well as my colleague, Mr. Huberman, to express their concern about this longstanding situation in Wall Street. We know that our city is great. We know that our city is thriving, those things that we agree on. But I think we would all be remiss if we did not take a moment to acknowledge the impact of those people's daily lives that had to deal with this for so long. And the city did its best to come to this resolution. And we know that, you know, going forward, everybody may have an opinion and have something to say, but I think the city's best work was done in coming to this agreement with all parties. But I really want to say to those residents and those business owners, we heard you loud and clear, and we were working on your behalf as we continue to push this settlement forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Ayers. Further comment or discussion? Ms. Young.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I sit here as someone who's been kind of new to this POCO project. So I'm new to all of this, and I don't know how Mr. Livingston and you and everybody else has managed this, but we've done it. And I think the part that I'm very that strikes me the most, I think Ms. Ayers made reference to it, and so did Council President Burnett. It's about the residents. It's about the community, and it's about our city. And I don't think we ever want to see ourselves go through this process again. Although we can't say that it won't happen, but I hope as we move forward in the development of Wall Street and that area and the work that we have to do moving forward, that may include Mr. Milligan again, that we've got some lessons learned and that we're forging a better relationship. It's not going to be the best relationship, but it needs to be a better relationship so that we don't find ourselves in this position again. And hopefully and if we do, we can get out of it a lot faster than 5 years. And so I think that is really, I think, where we are. Thank you to Mr. Coppola and the law department and everybody who had a hand in this, because there are a lot of council members that were here before us that put in a lot of time and energy. And it's not for us here, it's for the betterment of the city. And so I'm just pleased that we're at this point because it doesn't look good. And we want it to look better. And we've got a major plan for that part of the area of the city. And we want to see that happen. And to Ms. Ayers and to Mr. Huberman and your district, I'm happy that this part is over. And we're moving on to something new.
Further comments, discussion? Seeing none, before we do the vote, I also want to thank the entire council. I want to thank the law department. I want to thank Attorney Williams, who also worked extremely hard on this. You know, this is an opportunity now. We're so glad to get this behind us. It'll now help us move forward to make a vibrant and modern Wall Street, which has been a commitment of my administration from the very beginning. First things I started to do was to get Head of the Harbor South and POCO moving forward. Unfortunately, we had a stumbling block. But, you know, there were many times when people were trying to get us to walk away from this. But we never wavered. We kept moving forward in spite of a lot of people criticizing us. We continued to move forward because we knew that we were right. This should send a very strong message to any current and future developers that when they enter into an agreement with the city of Norwalk, they will be held accountable. We will make sure that they live up to that agreement. If they don't, we will do what we have to do to bring that to make sure that they do. So again, I want to thank everybody that worked so hard on this. And now, as I say, we can move forward to make Wall Street everything that it can be. As you've been reading in the media, you know that we have, and the council and the city and the redevelopment agency has committed $13 million to the Wall Street corridor to make complete streets, to make it a completely vibrant and modern area. And now I just want to say, let's get it done. So having said that, I will call for a vote if all who are in favor of approving this agreement would say aye. Or raise your hand. And it looks like looking for the people, Nicole and Diana and Mr. Camacho, I don't.
Yes, I said aye, sorry.
So based on my count, it was unanimous. 11 in favor, no one against. So again, thank you. And Ms. Revelous, you're right on target. Ms. Revelous had a motion to adjourn. All in favor? We are adjourned at 9:18. Thank you all.
Good night.
And I'll see some of you at the Mayor's Ball tomorrow night, hopefully.
A lot of you.